It was 11 p.m. when I knew my HOA president had crossed a line you can't uncross. A strange BMW sat in my driveway. My shower ran upstairs. Someone else's perfume hung in the foyer. I just hauled my luggage up the circular drive of my inherited colonial mansion, 2 weeks early from a European business trip, expecting nothing more exciting than a hot shower and 12 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Instead, my house blazed with light. Music drifted from the living room. And upstairs, someone was butchering a song in my master bath. The perfume hit me the moment I unlocked the door, expensive, floral, and nauseatingly familiar. I'd smelled it for months at HOA board meetings. The same scent that clung to Veronica Whitfield like a fog of entitlement. Veronica wasn't just tormenting me with citations anymore. She was living in my house, using my shower, acting like she owned the place. Let me rewind. My name's Marcus, I'm 47, and 6 months ago, I inherited something I never expected, a 4,200 square foot colonial in Millbrook Estates, one of those perfect neighborhoods where the grass is cut to regulation length and disagreements are delivered via passive-aggressive notes. My late Aunt Dolores had owned it for 30 years. She baked snickerdoodles for new neighbors, kept meticulous journals, and loved that house more than anything. When she passed, she left it to me, worth $850,000 and completely paid off. After my divorce had wiped me out financially, it was like winning the lottery, while getting struck by lightning. The house smelled of lavender and old books, warmed each morning by the ping of antique radiators. For the first time in years, I felt at home. Then came the snake in my little paradise. Veronica Whitfield, 52, HOA president for 8 years, real estate agent, and self-appointed guardian of community standards, pronounced with the gravity of national security. She lived in a smaller townhouse at the edge of the development, and my sudden arrival in a grander home clearly stuck in her craw. Her first visit came while I was unpacking boxes. Heels clicking like a metronome of doom, clipboard in hand, she smiled with all the warmth of a tax audit. "Welcome to the neighborhood," she said. "I'm here about your mailbox." Turns out Aunt Dolores's classic black mailbox, there for 3 decades, violated the HOA's sacred forest green color scheme. "That's a $150 fine if you don't change it within 10 days, she said, savoring every syllable. That was just the start. Week 2, a citation for leaving trash cans out past 6 p.m., never mind pickup was at 5 a.m. Week 6, complaints about my son Tyler's friends parking on the public street. Week 12, a threatened fine for commercial activity because my cybersecurity consulting business had Amazon packages delivered. Meanwhile, longtime residents broke rules daily without a peep from her. I was clearly being singled out. "She's territorial," my neighbor Beth whispered one morning. "New people threaten her little kingdom, especially in houses she can't afford." When I booked a 3-week trip to Europe, only Beth and Tyler knew. Yet the night before I left, Veronica appeared at my door. "You really shouldn't leave a house like this unattended," she said, eyes scanning my foyer like she was planning an invasion. "I could keep an eye on things." "Thanks, but I've got it handled." Her smile vanished. "We'll see about that." Fast forward 3 weeks. I came home early, 11 p.m. Tuesday. Jet-lagged, dragging my suitcase, dreaming of my own bed, until I saw the BMW parked where my car belonged. Lights blazed in every window. I slipped around back, retrieved the spare key from under the loose brick by the garden gate, an old Aunt Dolores trick, and eased inside. The smell was overwhelming. Veronica's perfume. Takeout cartons littered my counters. My wine glasses, my wine, sat dirty in the sink. Training kicked in. Years of digital forensics work had taught me, document everything. I photographed strange clothes draped over my chair, new shampoo in my shower, prescription bottles labeled V. Whitfield. Upstairs, water ran in my bathroom. Singing stopped when I called her name. "Marcus." Her voice cracked. "You're not supposed to be back for 2 weeks. It's my house, Veronica. I can come back whenever I want." 5 minutes later, she emerged in my bathrobe, dripping on my hardwood. "There was a break-in scare," she said, clutching the robe. "I was protecting your property." By drinking my $200 Bordeaux and sleeping in my bed? I have HOA emergency authority over vacant homes, she snapped, producing a document with my forged signature. Bad move. Document analysis is literally my job. One glance and I knew it was fake. Then the toilet flushed in the guest bath. Out walked Dave Kowalski, off-duty cop, full uniform, married father of 3 from 2 streets over. Everything okay here, Veronica? He asked, hand resting casually on his gun. And that's when I realized, this wasn't just trespassing. This was organized fraud, with law enforcement backup. By morning, I'd called a locksmith and started investigating. Beth showed up with a casserole and gossip. Veronica told everyone you were subletting, she said. Said you needed the rent after your divorce. It wasn't just personal anymore. It was financial and public. She hadn't just stolen my space, she'd stolen my privacy, my reputation. Last Thursday, Beth said, she threw a dinner party here. 8 people, catered food. Used your dining room like she was staging a magazine shoot. I thought Beth was exaggerating until I discovered my security system had been bypassed. Not cut wires. Not amateur hour. Professional work. The kind that costs serious money. I'd installed that system myself after my divorce. Part security, part therapy. Seeing it dismantled felt like finding surgical scars you didn't remember getting. By noon, Veronica fired back. An official HOA notice taped to my door. Emergency board meeting that night, 24 hours, notice, barely legal. The charges read like a prosecutor's wish list, disturbing the peace, harassment, threatening behavior toward community officials. The meeting was in the community center, a beige box that smelled like industrial carpet and dashed dreams. 5 board members sat at a folding table better suited for a church bake sale. Veronica presided from the middle, navy blazer sharp enough to cut glass. The fix was obvious. 3 members were her real estate clients, the 4th her cousin Janet, whose intellect ranked somewhere between a houseplant and a decorative gourd. Only elderly Gladys Pembroke looked like she had an independent thought in her head. Marcus? Veronica began, syrup over steel, we've received disturbing reports about your behavior last night. Witnesses, plural, described you as aggressive. I counted 0 actual witnesses in the room. Let's hear from them. Officer Kowalski provided a detailed statement, she said, sliding a paper over. Dave's report was pure fiction, turning breaking and entering into protecting the property during the owner's absence. They gave me 3 minutes to defend myself. I'd like to see the board minutes authorizing this emergency caretaker program. That's administrative, she said, shuffling papers. Then the HOA bylaw granting you authority to occupy member properties. The board has broad emergency powers. Specific bylaw number? Silence, until cousin Janet broke it. We don't need to justify our authority to you. There it was. This wasn't about rules. It was about power. And bullies thrive on victims being too intimidated or too ignorant to fight back. The vote? 4-1 against me. $1,500 fine. $500 a month in monitoring fees until I complied with community standards. Gladys was the lone dissenter. Outside, she caught me in the parking lot. She's done this before, she whispered. Previous targets just moved away. Confirmation. This was bigger than me. Monday, I walked into Sarah Morgan's law office with a banker's box of evidence. She specialized in property law and HOA abuse cases, apparently a booming industry. Her first finding: emergency caretaker authority didn't exist in our bylaws. Not once. Second, no board vote, no resolutions, nothing. Third, Veronica had been collecting monitoring fees for 3 years with 0 legal basis, a clipboard and letterhead protection racket. While Sarah built the case, Veronica escalated. Tuesday, anonymous tip to the city inspector about my unpermitted commercial space. Cameras caught him touring the property with someone who knew the layout perfectly. Nothing found. Wednesday, another complaint, this time zoning violations. Same pattern, same inside knowledge. Thursday, next door posts calling me a difficult new resident, accusing me of tax evasion, hiding assets from my divorce. Even Tyler, my teenage son, got questioned by neighbors. Friday, police patrols cruising my street like pizza deliveries on Super Bowl Sunday. But Saturday was mine. Recovering deleted files is second nature to me. Veronica hadn't touched my computer, but my cloud backups had her cold. 10 days of footage, her entering, leaving, hosting parties, giving house tours to prospective clients, photographing every room with pro lighting. And the digital smoking gun, her phone's failed login attempts on my encrypted files, MAC address included. Sarah's verdict: we're going to destroy her in court. Beth hosted a backyard coffee meetup Sunday. 8 households. By the end, we'd uncovered years of harassment, fraudulent landscaping fees, forced real estate deals, bogus citations. For the first time, I had something I hadn't felt since inheriting this place: allies. Monday morning, Sarah called. Court-ordered HOA financial records came in. You need to see this. On her table, spreadsheets of $47,000 in fake vendor payments, emergency repairs for storms that never happened, tree removals for trees still standing. All deposited into Whitfield Property Solutions LLC, a shell company tied to Veronica. Then we found her business plan. It outlined using vacant luxury homes as showrooms for high-end clients. My house was her crown jewel. Dinner parties, pro photos, tours, every move calculated to sell the illusion she managed luxury estates. Even worse, a pre-filled purchase agreement for my home at $200,000 below market, ready to file under a bogus emergency lien. Beth, it turned out, was a retired forensic accountant. Her review pegged total theft across 6 communities at over $200,000. Elderly owners. Vacant homes. People too scared to fight. This wasn't HOA drama anymore. This was organized crime, clipboards instead of crowbars. And I was done playing defense. She wasn't just a petty trespasser, she was a professional con artist who'd perfected the art of monetizing homeowner intimidation. The violation of my home no longer felt random. It was strategic. I'd been targeted because my inherited house was the perfect storm: high value, vulnerable ownership, and an owner temporarily absent for business travel. But she'd made a single fatal miscalculation. She'd gone after someone with the technical skills to trace her digital trail, the resources to fight back, and the stubborn streak to see it through. That night, locking my newly secured front door, I knew the real fight was only starting. This wasn't just fraud. It was a conspiracy, and tomorrow we'd begin dismantling it piece by piece. By Tuesday morning, my kitchen had become a war room fit for Pentagon planners. Sarah Morgan arrived with a stack of legal briefs. Beth showed up armed with her forensic accounting toolkit. I contributed the fuel, enough coffee for a small battalion. The air smelled like determination and highlighter ink as we mapped our assault on Veronica's empire. Sarah laid out the legal strategy like a D-Day invasion. A civil lawsuit first, trespassing, fraud, breach of fiduciary duty, and defamation. Each came with penalties, but the real power was in discovery. It would force her to produce the documents she'd buried deeper than Jimmy Hoffa. Then Sarah slid a card across my countertop. FBI's interested. Financial Crimes Division, mail fraud angle. Every fake HOA notice is a federal offense. The State Real Estate Board was just as eager to investigate unlicensed property management and client information abuse. Turns out, using other people's homes as your personal showroom breaks about 17 professional regulations. Beth had the smoking gun, financial records showing years of HOA funds funneled into Veronica's accounts. Fake invoices, phantom vendors, repairs that never happened. The paper trail led straight to her doorstep. Sarah tapped our bylaws with her pen. Emergency powers must be granted in writing. Fines over $100 need unanimous board votes. Financial conflicts must be disclosed or they face personal liability. Translation: every fine she'd issued without approval was worthless, every undisclosed deal was grounds for lawsuits, and every dollar she'd stolen was outright theft. While Sarah prepped the legal artillery, Beth and I organized the neighborhood. We scheduled a homeowner rights session at the library, careful to frame it as educational, not confrontational. 23 people showed up. What we heard was infuriating. Mrs. Morgan from Oak Street had paid $2,200 for emergency landscaping. That never happened. The Rodriguez family had been cited 17 times for violations, identical to things other neighbors got away with. Even contractor Bill Morrison had quietly paid bogus fines just to avoid the hassle. The pattern was crystal clear. Veronica targeted the vulnerable, new residents, elderly owners, single parents, people with language barriers. By the end, we had more than legal documents, we had a united front. I created a simple evidence logging template for every victim: dates, amounts, witnesses, photos, correspondence. My cybersecurity background kept everything organized, encrypted, and backed up. We even set up a secure group chat that doubled as our own resistance network. The media strategy was delicate. I knew from corporate work that reporters need a full, coherent story, not scraps. Abuse of power plus sympathetic victims makes great local TV. Sarah moved to freeze Veronica's assets. You can't profit from crime while it's being prosecuted, while I began documenting everything for possible documentary use. Our quiet weapon was psychological. I attended every board meeting with Sarah, asking polite, perfectly reasonable questions. What was the bidding process for this vendor? Where are the receipts for this emergency repair? Can you show documentation for this fee structure? Every question made her more visibly uncomfortable. By Friday, we were ready. Lawsuits filed, federal agents briefed, media primed, and neighbors mobilized. She had ruled through intimidation and ignorance. We had knowledge and solidarity. Her counterpunch came fast. By Monday she'd filed a restraining order against me, harassment, stalking, threats. The petition read like bad fiction. The woman squatting in my home was now claiming I was stalking her. Thursday morning, county courthouse. Veronica brought a budget lawyer. I had Sarah Morgan and a banker's box of evidence. Judge Patricia Morrison, a no-nonsense veteran, listened to Veronica's tearful claims about feeling unsafe. If I hadn't known better, I might have believed her. Then Sarah dropped the timeline and security footage. The night she said I was lurking at her house, I was hosting Tyler's study group. The day she claimed I confronted her at the grocery store, credit card receipts had me 50 miles away. The knockout blow was audio from board meetings. My voice was calm and professional, hers was defensive and agitated. The judge denied the order and warned her about filing false claims, an early Christmas gift wrapped in legal precedent. But she wasn't done. Soon came anonymous complaints to my clients, fake online reviews, and, most disgustingly, a smear attempt involving my son. Someone called his school claiming he was neglected while I traveled. The counselor, who knew Tyler well, saw through it. Then Child Protective Services showed up. Janet Rodriguez, clipboard in hand, inspected our home, interviewed Tyler, reviewed records. The result? Complaint dismissed, and our household praised for stability and Tyler's maturity. Tyler just smirked. She really thinks fake complaints will scare us? We have evidence, she has nothing. But while we celebrated that win, she prepared her most desperate move, one that could take down the entire HOA with her. It began with a mysterious computer crash. At an emergency board meeting, she announced all financial records were lost and the backup had failed, mere days before the court-ordered audit. The timing was laughable. What she hadn't counted on was my cybersecurity skills, and the fact that deleted rarely means gone. While she played her tragic data loss role, I was already working with a data recovery specialist who owed me a favor. Turns out, computers are terrible at keeping secrets. They don't erase things, they just hide them and hope no one looks too closely. Within 48 hours, we'd recovered 87% of Veronica's lost financial records, plus her browser history from the morning before her accidental crash. She'd been searching for ways to permanently delete files and downloading data wiping software. The recovered files told the whole ugly story: emails with fake vendors, takeover plans for targeted properties, and a spreadsheet ranking which homeowners were most likely to pay bogus fines without a fight. She ran her scam with the precision of a corporate enterprise. And then came the smoking gun, an unsent draft email to her accomplice, complaining about that cybersecurity guy who thinks he's so smart and detailing plans to destroy all evidence. While we were piecing together her digital trail, Veronica went scorched earth on the community. She called a last-minute board meeting to push through emergency assessments of $15,000 per household, enough to bankrupt half the retirees and force young families into choosing between their mortgages and HOA compliance. Her pitch to the 3 board members still under her spell was a masterclass in manipulation. Marcus Reed's vindictive lawsuit is costing this community thousands. Every homeowner should share the burden of the damage his harassment has caused. Translation: make everyone pay for my legal defense while I play the victim. Friday night arrived. Minimal notice, maximum pressure. But our network was ready. 43 homeowners, record attendance, filled the community center to standing room only. The air smelled of tension and Beth's homemade cookies, because apparently confrontation works best on a full stomach. 80-year-old Gladys Pembroke, now fully awake to Veronica's games, stood up with a voice that could cut glass. I moved to remove Veronica Whitfield from the board for financial misconduct and breach of fiduciary duty. The vote was swift, 4-1 in favor of removal, with only her cousin Janet dissenting. 10 minutes later, Janet was voted out too for failing to oversee the books. But Veronica's night wasn't over. As she gathered her papers, the community center doors opened, and in walked FBI Special Agent Maria Santos, radiating the kind of presence that makes guilty people confess before anyone asks a question. "Ms. Whitfield," she said, crisp and clear, "we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of mail fraud, conspiracy, and federal wire fraud violations." Handcuffs. Done. Veronica tried for one last round of victim theater, pointing at me and shouting, "This is all because of him. He's destroying our community." The 43 homeowners stayed silent as she was led to the unmarked FBI sedan. The only sound was the autumn wind through the old oak trees that had stood watch long before Veronica's reign of intimidation. From the back row, Tyler, who'd been doing calculus homework through most of the meeting, looked up and said, "Well, that was dramatic. Understatement of the year. From arrest to reform." 3 weeks later, the HOA drama had grown into a full-blown municipal scandal. City Council called a hearing on HOA reform legislation, and the auditorium was packed. Residents, reporters, officials, curious onlookers, and that ever-present scent of institutional coffee. I was scheduled to testify. But Veronica, out on bail, managed one last performance. Her lawyer, the kind who bills by the syllable, secured her the first speaking slot. She wore a navy dress worth more than some people's mortgages and spoke with trembling, well-rehearsed emotion. "I've given 8 years to this community. I've protected property values, enforced standards, and kept Millbrook Estates desirable. Now I'm the target of a wealthy newcomer's harassment campaign." Some in the crowd looked sympathetic. She was good. This was her Oscar moment. Then she made the mistake. "I have never done anything illegal or unethical. Every action I took was to protect our community." That was my cue. I asked the moderator for permission to present evidence and stepped to the front with my laptop. First clip, security footage of Veronica hosting a dinner party in my dining room, giving exclusive tours to potential real estate clients. Second, her rifling through my office and photographing documents. Third, coaching Dave on intimidating homeowners. Then came the audio from her supposedly crashed computer, her laughing about using vacant homes as sales props and mocking that divorced guy who thinks he's so smart. The room shifted, sympathy evaporated, outrage took its place. Detective Lisa Warren stood to confirm the federal charges: mail fraud, wire fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering, with victims in 6 communities. Councilman Robert Morgan introduced sweeping HOA reforms, quarterly audits, mandatory conflict of interest disclosures, and background checks for board members. The vote was unanimous. Then Mrs. Peterson, who'd paid $800 in fraudulent fees she couldn't afford, stood and thanked me for fighting when everyone else was too scared. The 3-minute standing ovation answered my months-long question. Yes, the fight was worth it. Justice, healing, and the long game. 6 months later, Veronica pled guilty to avoid trial. 18 months in federal prison, 3 years probation, $127,000 restitution, and a lifetime ban from HOA boards. Dave Kowalski got 6 months in county jail, lost his police pension, and was barred from law enforcement. Finding a unicorn might have been less rare. The civil suit settled for $45,000 in punitive damages, which became the Millbrook Estates Good Neighbor Fund, helping residents with emergency repairs, medical bills, and support in hard times. Our new board, which somehow made me treasurer, brought full transparency, monthly reports, open bidding, quarterly meetings where people talk like civilized humans. Property values rose, not from intimidation, but from competence. The house that once felt violated became home again. That fall, Tyler and I hosted our first annual barbecue, over 60 neighbors, kids laughing on the new swing set, the same spot where Veronica used to park her unauthorized BMW. Marcus Law, the Homeowner Protection and Transparency Act, spread to 3 states. I testified at legislatures, spoke at conferences, and even gained clients impressed by my fraud-fighting skills. Our story became a documentary that won the local festival's Audience Choice Award. Tyler was more excited about that than getting into his top choice college. 2 years later, our block party drew over 100 people, including victims from Veronica's other communities. Standing in my yard, hearing laughter instead of whispered fear, I thought of Aunt Dolores' words. This house was meant to bring people together. She was right, just not in the way any of us expected. If your HOA's ever pulled something shady, tell your story. You have more power than you think. And remember, documentation beats intimidation every single time.